Oh, wow.
Saw it twice, so I was like, oh my god.
That was just weird.
I always used to see a light coming up,
Yeah.
like a headlight, but there was nobody there.
Oh, it's just disappeared.
Hello everybody, welcome to tonight's live stream that nearly didn't happen. I was sat in a doctor's surgery probably 45 minutes, well not probably, 45 minutes ago. All's well though, so we're good to go. I just rang Gemma and said we'll be doing it, so that's why the thumbnail looks like it's just thrown together. There's no date on it or anything, and please tell me if you can hear me because it said no storage as I went live just then. And I just removed a few of the little bits of footage that were on there. So I'm pretty sure that we're live and we're up and running. So how's everybody tonight? What you been up to? Because I've got somebody to come on and talk for about half an hour about an unusual experience that they had on the cliff tops, East Yorkshire. And I think it's a good example as to why people should go to these locations with someone else, at least another person, and don't go alone. I mean, I'm saying that, and I spent a few years up there on my own, but it always does get a little bit edgy. But there's a good reason why. So just give me a shout in chat if you if we are live. I'm pretty sure we are. I'm showing that, but it just said it weren't recording. Just give me a thumbs up or do something if you can, please. And I'm sure that we're good to go. So let's have a look. So, hi Ben, let's just have a look at this. We'll just everyone. It's got to be, hasn't it? Let's have a look. Yeah, thumbs up. We've got that. I think Andrew Wild's giving me that. That's yeah, we've got it. Thank you very much, guys. Literally, everything's just thrown together, and obviously I'm doing live streams because I like doing them, but I'm doing it for you guys because you're so sort of consistent every week, and I love the fact that we get so much support. The Mick Park. Hi, Paul. Hope you're all good, mate. Looking forward to seeing you next weekend. I'm looking forward to it as well, Mick. And for those that don't know, let's just put that up. Mick's the guy that produced the music for Wolflands, and as well as his own music, which is just incredible. I mean, anything you want, Mick, as you know, just give it a plug here if you want to point people in a direction of anything that you've done, because it's incredible. If you like dance music, and I also my age, done at 62, but I did like dance music. I still do, but I just look stupid doing it, won't I? But yeah, Mick's the man. So all good. As I say, I've got Andy coming on, Andy Hardy, who's had a strange experience up there, which weren't very nice for him and his partner, and he's going to tell us about it in view of what it's been like last few weeks. But I noted that you guys, because as I said, I haven't got loads to talk about, I noted that you like to hear the accounts. I've always known that, but when I go on Howard Hughes, bless him, you know, Howard would get me telling people's accounts of the strange and unusual, coast to coast, Whitley Strieber, and we've done all that. And when I did the Truth Proof live streams and the last transmission, you kind of get out of it. And it's not deliberate. I don't know. You end up talking to other people and doing other things. So that is the main reason. Before we just do this little story, I'll do a few stories before I bring Andy on. And at least I hope he's going to come on. We'll just have a little bit of a name shout out, shall we? So let's just have a look up here. So we've got Stargaze Returnal, Awake, Dragonborn, John Paul Body, Ginge, Linda, Ben, Drew Hollings, Mag Sue, Zero Dawn, Lisa, Tom Waters. Let's have a look. Baby with a Laser, Steve Collin, Jane Louise. Let's have a look. And Tom Waters, we've done all that. We've got 161 people in chat here. So I'm not going to get through all these names. I never do. Jan and Andrew. Let's have a look. Ben 22, Lee Hopkins. Is it Hopkins? Yeah, absolutely. Nielke Brown. Lee Prendergast, and Jay Leveler. Good to see you, mate. And we're going to just jump into it. Anybody, please hit me with some questions. And let's have a look. Michael and Kirsty. Parks Wilson, the Eclipse. Well, somebody knows there, mate. Somebody knows about mixed music. It really is absolutely inspirational dance music. And I often I put it on because it's just brilliant. It takes you back. It takes you to a place, doesn't it? It takes you to raves on North Bridge at Doncaster. So they were going back a few years there. So anyway, everybody's got a life before this life. Let's have a look at things here. So I've got a little story here called A Flamborough Werewolf. So for the people in Flamborough, for the people in Bempton, for the people in East and North Yorkshire who don't believe these things exist, this isn't proof of it, but it just adds a little bit more, as we say, meat to the bone. So we're contacted by a man, let's just jump into it, called Ian Jones. And Ian wanted to tell me about something he saw whilst holidaying in Flamborough. And he said he regularly walked the cliff tops of an evening. He's not a man in his 20s, you know, he's not a youngish man, he's in his 50s. And not that that matters, but at least he's a little bit more mature. He's not I don't think he's imagining anything. And sometimes his walks extend late into the night. And it was on one of these walks on the 27th of August, 2019, that he had this experience. And it's something that chilled him to the bone, or so he says. And he began walking the cliffs from Flamborough or Thornwick Bay. So people not familiar with this, do some Google Earth and let's have a look, and then you can see where this guy's going. And so he's walking from Thornwick Bay Holiday Park along the cliff top. He took a left turn that headed to the cliff top path in the direction of the calf on the edge of Thornwick Bay. If you've never been there, it's like stepping back in time, to be honest with you. It's like going back to a cafe in 1960s. It really is. But still a good calf. From there, he continued on along the headland towards Bempton. Right, okay. It was already dark, but he'd brought a torch along with him just in case. Unusually, Ian decided to walk in the opposite direction on this nightly walk, because normally he'd go the other way and try and get towards the lighthouse. But he decided to walk towards Bempton for a change. Not exactly familiar with the route either. He's since studied Google Earth and familiarized himself with the area after what happened. And he now knows that he stood close to Wold Farm caravan site. Not on Wold Farm, he's on the cliff top path. So not that he'd be trespassing, I don't think. There's no signs saying don't go. So he's stood there. So you're all following me so far. In the night, he said he could not understand what it was. And I explained to right, okay, we've missed a bit here, haven't we? He commented that he'd seen a large wooden pole on the edge of the cliffs. And we're on the edge of 200 to 400 foot cliffs up there that are sheer. So obviously he's scratching his head because there's no trees, there's nothing. And there's a wooden pole. So he's not thinking, oh, this is just a tree that's kind of deteriorated and there's nothing there. There's just nothing. But I've since told him it was almost like a totem pole that had been carved of a puffin, you know, the seabirds. It's since been uprooted and thrown into sea by vandals, to be honest with you, which is a big shame. But I explained to him what it was. But in the night, he couldn't understand what it was. And I've since told him it was a puffin. As he approached the timber pole or dead tree in his mind, the carved puffin, he distinctly heard a sheep cry out in the darkness. Bearing in mind he'd not done this walk before. He described the sound as if it was an animal in pain. He then said he heard a muffled growl and began to feel uneasy. Moments later, and he's approaching as before he gets to Danes Dyke. He's approaching it, and you can see the ridge of the old earthwork known as Danes Dyke, which runs 2.5 miles across the headland to the place where all the tourists go. So he's on the north side, and he heard this muffled growl, and moments later he saw a sphere of light moving along the top of the dike, a white to yellow coloured light. It's not a long story, this, so bear with us, people, and I'm hoping I might have got a few questions after this. Ian says he instantly assumed it was a man walking his dog. He's heard a growl, He's not really thinking about the sheep at this present time, but he's heard a growl. He's seen a light. It's a man walking along the top of this ridge, which he didn't know were Dane's Dyke, but he's walking along the top of this ridge. But suddenly the light vanished and there was no man. Now Ian suddenly became gripped with fear, a fear that he couldn't shake off, and he doesn't know why. It kind of just descended on him. It overcome him, the fear. And at that point, he decided to turn back towards Flamborough and the safety of the campsite or the caravan site where he'd been staying. That's the moment that everything changed and turned even more sinister. Because he told me that he saw the huge outline of an animal that looked like it was stood on two legs. And yeah, we're talking about something bipedal that's, for all intents and purposes, from his descriptions, covered in fur. I know what he's saying. I know what some people are saying. It's impossible. What do you want me to say? There's loads of reports come out of this area of similar things. And these people, as we repeat and repeat and repeat, are unrelated to one another. Yet they're all singing from the same hymn sheet, so to speak. He said it slowly lowered below the lighted part of the sky. You know, if you've got let's assume we're looking at the sea to the horizon, and then we've got that lighted part where you would see a silhouette or inland. So it slowly lowered to below the lighter part of the sky and went out of sight. Now he's got a problem, a big problem, because the walk from the campsites probably took him in the night 45 minutes. And the thing is, he had to walk back. When it lowered into the darkness, it was behind him. He had to walk back along this narrow path where you've only got the cliffs and fields at the other side. And he's got to walk back past where it's lowered down. And he was too frightened to do it because that was the route back to Flamborough. So absolutely terrified, he had no choice. And he decided to walk onto the RSPB reserve, back onto the main road and walk back to Flamborough. So that's just one quirky story amongst, I don't mean hundreds, but I'm sure there's hundreds out there. If I'm being truthful, I'm pretty sure that there are. And it's just one story amongst many that I've been told. I mean, it's not as dramatic. It's not as frightening as the military guys encounter, which, what year did he say that took place? That was 2019. That was August. Their encounter was February the 7th, 2019. And we know, don't we? Everybody, we all know that these things don't exist in reality. And that's what I like to impress upon people over and over again, because there's just not enough landmass. There's just not enough. There's not enough places for these things to hide. So that's where it throws it into the paranormal realm for me. I'm scrolling down here. Let's have a look. Hold on, I'll just do this. Did you ever go to the Warehouse Club on the North Bridge in Donny? Yes, I did, mate. Yeah, absolutely. So there you go, Ross. Yeah, and Mick Parks' fault for bringing all this up. But yeah, absolutely. I lived, Ross, probably half a mile from it, because if you'd have gone down to the bottom where the traffic lights are, as you know, and there were a pub there as well, I don't know what they're called, the Drum, but you take a left and you go up Sprotborough Road, and that's where I lived. So there we go. We're not doing that tonight. Let's have a look. Mick, I live in the same village, Wendover, as Neil Tricks, and I know you know and used to put house nights on with him there. We should have had Mick on tonight, shouldn't we, mate? But thanks, Michael and Kirsty. Absolutely brilliant. We might have something to tell. Mick's coming up next week, so we might have something to talk about. I'm just running down these questions because we're going to get Andy on. Just give us a thumbs up, Andy, if you're still okay for 5-10. Yeah, brilliant. 5-10 minutes, and we'll just get through a few of these. Let's have a look. Has your book ever been the trigger for someone else to contact you and tell you or prompt you or reaffirm memories of their own past event? Absolutely. And as people know, there's 5 books. So there's the 4 truth proof books, which are all basically about other people's experiences. There's a few in there when I've been with people, but most of them are about other people's experiences. That's why I love talking about this stuff so much, because I'm putting over all these other experiences from other people, and it's a bit hard for the people who are debunking these things to say, oh, this guy's making it all up. This guy goes up there and he sees this and he sees that. But no, just draw back a little bit, because most of what I'm talking about are from other people. But has the book ever triggered some kind of reaction? Night People has. I've had people, and if you're in the chat and you're one of them, please tell me. But I've had people talk about reading Night People, and it's not only been frightening, but it's brought back their own experiences as well in some kind of vivid reality. Incidentally, the books are available truthproof.uk. That weren't planned, that one, so thanks, Tim. Truthproof.uk, or they're available as Kindle on Amazon, or you can buy them through eBay. Just as you can buy the Wolflands DVD, all the same methods are also available as a Amazon Prime download. Enough of my... I hardly ever do that, though, people, do I? So you know that we're not just doing here to just try and sell books. So let's have a look. I'll put these questions up. We aren't reading them, so I hope they're not bad. Paul, do you think the Moorland wildfire... Do you know something? I don't think it will, but it's something that we've talked about. I spoke to Jeremy today, who comes on Cliff Tops with us. And Jeremy lives close to Fylingdales. That's as close as I'll say. And he didn't come down other night because of the fires. The roads were closed off, although Chris, a good friend of ours, came down and he did the long route round, and it was great to see Chris. But Jeremy didn't, and I think the smoke and everything, he's actually living there. He doesn't just have to pass through it, has meant that he's actually moved out for the weekend, hoping that things have simmered down. But could it expose cryptid type creatures? I've no idea, mate, honestly, because as I've said, my gut feeling is that these things aren't here, and we're dealing with something truly, you can call it supernatural, paranormal, whatever you want to call it. That's what I think we're dealing with. And once again, for the people that say what a load of BS, you probably got married in a church, and you've probably got some ties to a religion, and all religions are okay in my book. I'm not knocking them, but what I'm saying is that's basically you're just worshipping a supernatural being. And try to tell me that you're not. So don't knock other people, I guess I'm saying, if they have had experiences with cryptid type phenomena or UFOs stroke aliens, and we'll use that one loosely again because they're not supposed to be from outer space, but alien type beings, because some people, I don't know, they just can't wrap their heads around it. Don't get me on a soapbox. Let's have a go. Let's just go down here a little bit. And Andy's sat there and patiently, which is really good. After this live stream, and we will be definitely finish up probably about 8:30, but if it runs past, don't forget at 9 o'clock, and I think Gemma's put it out, at 9 o'clock there will be a short film going on the last transmission on YouTube. So if you've time, be sure to jump over to that. And as with the Truth Proof live stream, if you've not pressed the like and subscribe, give it a go, and do the same for last transmission. Did he mention its height? Good point. Mike Disabled Welshman. Yes, he did. This is a man that were really reluctant to. He told me about it initially, and I got a phone number and I spoke to him quite a few times, and I'd have loved to have got him on the live stream, even if it was just via audio. But he weren't having any of that. But he were talking about something well over 6 foot tall. And just like the military guys, they thought between 7 and 8 foot tall. So it's a really strange one. It's like the little YouTube film that I put up earlier in the week, where Gareth said it glided along the top, or one of them looked like it glided along the top of the corn, as opposed to these bounding movements where you see shoulder blades and limbs moving. And he couldn't estimate or guesstimate a height of these things. He just knew that they were well above the corn. So interesting. I noticed in chat somebody said, corn's 7 foot high. We're not in America, mate. We weren't talking about sweet corn. But there you go. Let's have a look. Let's just keep tickling down here. All right, Jane. Can we see... What's this? Can we see your T-shirt, Paul? Yeah, you can do, Jane. Yeah, and... I don't buy these. Jess buys them, and other girls, so they get me these T-shirts. And if I'm being truthful, I don't wear them when I go out anywhere because I feel daft. But you just don't want to invite some kind of, I don't know what I'd be inviting. Somebody's going to think or want to talk to me. Right, let's have a look. We're going to get Andy on in a bit. I reckon they feed off our fear. Vampire of sorts. Do you know, Stan, I absolutely, I'm on the same page, and I don't mean I understand it, and I'm not even sure if you do, but just like some people are kind of emotional and vampires, and you know when phone rings and you know number and you think, I'm going to feel drained after this call. I think these things, we're not talking anything to do with blood, and I know you're not. It's almost like it's tapping into something and getting some kind of pleasure or some kind of sustenance, and it might be some kind of mental sustenance from our fear. I don't know how it works, but you're right, and I don't know what other people think. We'll just do this. They could be hiding underground, maybe in tunnels. Yeah, I get that, Gil, but do you think if there'd have been, we talk about the thought forms and we say, are we creating the phenomena? Or I say we, I've been saying it recently. There's not loads and loads of reports. There's loads of reports of strange occurrences in the area of Danesdyke going back hundreds of years. And I've got reports from people really getting on in years, and people who are getting on in years who've been told by their fathers and grandfathers have seen strange things around that area. But I still can't get my head around the fact that something could go undetected. And if people can see ghosts and the apparitions of deceased animals and things like that, and at times we're not looking at some kind of tracing of a human being that just seems oblivious to the person observing it. At times you hear of people saying that these things look just as surprised to see you as you are as surprised to see them. Well, who's to say that in another sphere of existence that there isn't thin areas in places on the earth, and that's what's happening, but I'm not going to rule out what you're saying, because it would be wrong of me, because I've got no proof of what I'm saying, have I? Let's face it. Every time, what do I say? We're a skeptic stroke debunker's dream scenario, because we talk about things. We've all had things up close and personal. We've all had these experiences, but we really haven't got a lot of proof of what we're talking about. And if Linny's in here tonight, and Pete, but if you are, and Mrs. Linny and Mia Girl, and let's have a look, and let's get rid of that. I might not get to these questions, because I do want to get Andy on and tell us this, and hit Andy with some questions if you think. Let's have a look. We all like Zeno on here, don't we? Paul, there's a possibility that these things are dormant and don't exist. What a great thought. This is why I like this man's thought process. They're dormant and don't exist until activated by specific consciousness fields responding to something proper, hard to understand, but it's the best I could put it. Yeah, well, I think we can all glean a little bit from that. We don't have to agree with it, but I love it, because he's out of the box thinking. What do you guys think? All right, let's have a look. Jan and Andrew, glass tunnel and portals. So many people. I think it was Sally Everington, lovely lady, and her husband came up to the cliff tops. Don't ask me year. I think we're talking about probably 2022. But somebody might know better if they've heard me talk about it. But they were walking along there, and then but they never said a word until they passed through it. They both suddenly realized that the sounds of the sea, the sounds of the wind, the sounds of the seabirds had stopped. It was as if, in her words, not mine, they'd entered a glass tunnel, and they walked through it and seemed to come out of it. And I think it was her husband that turned round and looked at her, and she said, "Did you just notice that?" And he went, "Yeah, I did, yeah." And then they walked back and everything were normal. It had just gone. So something really strange happening there. And you get a lot of reports like that connected to the unexplained phenomena, not just in this area. How many people talk about this descent into what I call the lower silence, this strange disjointed reality, just about when something's about to kick off, when you're going to be enveloped in some strange scenario. So absolutely. And I'm mindful that I've got Andy waiting, but I always get a kick up backside for these questions. All right, let's have a look. If it's not from this realm, do you think these things can? I think they probably could, Ben. I mean, I'm not so sure that anything's harmed anyone up around the area where we have. I think whoever talked about the fear earlier, I think that's its game. I think it loves fear. I wish I could get Mark on, who comes up onto the cliff tops with us, because he's as straight down the line as you're going to meet a man. And you know, and I push it like the amount of wild camping he's done and in remote places. No doubt we might see him in the week next week, and I'll say, "What you been doing?" And he'll say, "Oh, I went camping and I slept at the side of a river." And you know, he's got his own home, he's got a good standard of living, but he loves it. And so he's done all these things. And he's about 50, Mark. I don't want to do him an injustice, but what I'm saying is, and then one night up there, while we weren't there, he walked along those cliff tops and the fear hit him. And he'll openly say he's never experienced anything like it before or since. A fear unmatched or unparalleled, you know. So that's interesting, isn't it? See, Gemma's doing moderating. Is Lee in and Alison? I'm not sure, but if you are, it's on it. I'm not ignoring you. See 40 and 23s in it. Well, great to see you up on cliff tops last night, mate. Really good. And thanks for doing moderating. Mrs. Mia Wallace. Yep, I'm interested in information. I'll not go into detail. You might want to put in comments if you did about anything strange that's happened up there for you and your friends. But I'm not going to just. Right. Old RAF bases sometimes had tunnel systems as well as old mines and underground streams. Yeah, you make a good point. And yeah, I think this is a Type 1 rotor that's up on Bempton Cliffs, and they're all pretty bog standard. I think they used to dig a huge hole and literally build it and then fill it in around it. You know, they were designed, you know, to take the impact of a Russian Bear 1,000-pound free fall bomb. Can you imagine that? And I think Clifford fell away before that did. It had probably just fell into sea, because it's only about 200 yards from sea, or a near miss nuclear blast. But I've spoken to people, and it's so conflicting, because there's people who've worked there who say that's what it is, a Type 1 rotor. There's nothing else to it. I never found anything other than that. Then I've spoken to other people who work there and say there's other levels. So, you know, you don't know where to go. But not that it matters to me, really. Let's have a look. I'm going to bring Andy in a moment. Paul, we went to where I saw something. Lee Prendergast, ball of light, saw nothing. It's the frustration of seeing something once. And you're so right. You're so right, Lee. The guy that I've just been talking about, Mark, we're usually up there, and when we're up there, Mark will just appear out at darkness an hour later. And he never used his torch. You'll have heard me talking about this. I think we even did a short about it. And I hardly ever used it, but he just running his torch along the contours of the land, and he lit a little moon up. That's as much as I can describe it as. A 2p piece at arm's length above the land. And me and him saw it, and we both commented, "Whoa, what was that?" As soon as his torchlight hit it, it ignited and then switched off. He can't stop doing it now. He wants it to repeat. So that's similar to what you're saying, Lee. He wants this scenario, this what he saw once, he wants it to repeat. But as you know, as everybody in chat knows, the unexplained phenomena does not repeat to order. So we've got Tony Dixon, Rebecca King, Dazza G, Lynn Harrison, and let's have a go. And I'm going to leave these questions now, guys. I did collect the questions from last week. I've collected 4 or 5 of them, but I think it's only fair because Nearly didn't do the live stream tonight just because of time. And then I get a load of earache, and rightly so, because people are used to the Thursdays. And then I see a message from Andy, would you like me to come in? It's a live stream at some point, and I'll talk about what me and my partner experienced up at Bempton. And I thought, yeah, do you know, that's a great example of why nobody should go up there alone in the evening. Not in the daytime. You know, let's not forget, it gets full of visitors and people wanting to view this amazing seabird colony. But here's a good reason for why it's not. And I'm going to bring Andy in now, if that's okay. Are you okay with that, Andy? Yeah, brilliant. Hello, Andy, and thanks for joining us.
No worries, mate. You're welcome.
No, it's absolutely brilliant. And it's fate, really, because like I would just teetering whether to do a live stream with time. Yeah. And I realized I would sort of tell a story, and hopefully we'd get some questions off our amazing listeners. And then I saw the message from yourself. So just before we get into that, why did you end up on those cliff tops? Why did you end up at Bempton in the night?
So I did live stream, mate, with you, didn't I? And it probably would have been 6 months ago now, maybe.
Yeah.
Where I told my experiences that I've had throughout my life. And then off the back of that, I got the bug, mate, to go to Bempton, pretty much.
Yeah.
And with me only being in Newcastle and it being East Yorkshire, it was maybe 2.5, 3 hours in the car. So it wasn't a big backbreaker. So I just randomly decided to go, mate, one weekend. And I booked up an Airbnb and we headed down, mate, on the Friday night and stayed there till the Sunday.
Yeah.
So that's how I end up on the cliff tops.
Yes, I mean, and I don't really think that anything of an unexplained nature, as in paranormal, took place, did it?
No, I wouldn't say so, mate. I mean, some of the feelings that I had up there, I would say were maybe verging on the paranormal, maybe.
Yeah.
High strangeness side.
How much of that, Andy, do you think is brought on by people like Paul Sinclair, or Ian Linford or Pete or any of us up there talking about these things? Do you think it like puts that kind of ingredient into a person's mind, and then you're looking for it?
Well, for this scenario, mate, I would say no, because I went up there on the Friday night, and so I got up there, mate, the Friday, and this would have been the last weekend, mate, in February, so it was pitch black by the time we got up there. And when I got down there on the Friday, mate, I didn't really know where I was going. And like I say, it was in the pitch black. I just knew I had to get to the RSPB.
Yeah.
So when I got down on the Friday night, mate, it was it's a crazy thing to say, but it was quite a nice atmosphere down there.
Yeah.
I wasn't scared. Nothing happened. I don't know, mate. Maybe whether because there was a couple of fishermen there.
Yeah.
That put me at ease, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I knew there's other people there.
And you know, just to cut across you there, they go up there when soon as the bird nesting season's over, they're allowed to fish from the cliff tops. And a lot of them, you know, speak to us, Andy. And some of them are kind of off the record because they don't want to talk about the phenomena. And we'll get to your story. I'm not just cutting your throat, cutting you out there, but cutting your throat. I shouldn't have said that. But they've all had experiences. Loads and loads of them have had experiences, and say what a weird place it is. And that's the fishermen from up north. That's the fishermen from Hull and all around. When they get up there, they say they hear and see some unusual things. So you'd gone up there that night. There's few fishermen on cliff tops. Did they speak to you?
Yeah. I had a bit of I had a bit of banter with them, mate, a bit of crack, but it was more so in terms of, have you caught anything? How long have you been up here? You know, that type of thing. With it being my first night up there, I didn't want to go straight in and say to them, have you seen anything odd or strange? And like I said, mate, so that first night, I stayed up there a couple of hours, so I maybe stayed up there at about 10 o'clock. Yeah. And then because I've been at work all day and I was tired.
Were you with your partner that night as well?
Yeah, I was, mate, yeah.
Yeah.
So on that night, mate, we booked in the Airbnb, got all checked in, and then we headed up the cliff tops, and I think we got the cliff tops maybe 8 o'clock. And then, like I say, we stayed there for a couple of hours. Nothing happened, everything was fine. And then we left about 10 o'clock, went home, and went back to the Airbnb, got up in the morning, mate, and then I did like Dane's Dyke and Speaking and all those types of things. And then I went to the RSPB during the day. Yeah. So I wanted to see what it looked like during the day. So when I went back on the night time, I knew what direction to go. Yeah. Or orientation where RF Bempton was and all that type of stuff. So the daytime was great, mate. Like you said, there's loads of people there. It was quite warm. We leave for February. Loads of people there. So anyway, so I goes back, mate, and I get ready for the night time, and we headed up there, I think maybe about 7:30. And you know, when you turn onto the road, I don't even know what road it's called, mate, where you've got the caravans and you've got the passing lanes, the main road to the RSPB.
Yeah, Cliff Lane.
Yeah, Cliff Lane. That's the one, mate. Yeah. And as I went up that road, mate, if anyone saw the episode before, when I spoke about Dartmoor and I spoke about hitting that pocket of fear, well, as we drove up Cliff Lane, that's what it felt like I drove into.
Right.
And I was petrified going up Cliff Lane.
Yes, weird, isn't it?
Yeah, very strange, mate, very strange. And because I had my partner with me, I didn't want to say anything to scare or freak her out. And to be fair, mate, I just braved it out and just kept driving. So as we get to the RSPB and we parks up, we jumps out and puts our boots and everything on, puts our coats on. And we set off out, mate, out the RSPB, and we headed over to the right-hand side, which I think is where Liddy caught that thermal imaging orb thing.
The sphere, yeah.
Yeah. So we headed over, mate, that direction, and over the side. Oh, I didn't tell you this bit, mate, before. Over the back of that hill was an amber light that kept pulsing in and out.
Right.
Now, when we come home, somebody had put on that it was an oil works or a gas works that was letting off the excess gas.
But that were over the hill inland.
Yeah, over the hill inland, mate. Yeah.
Well, and I'm not wanting to create unexplained phenomena where there isn't any, but I know that lads who come up with me will tell you there's no gas installations at the back of that hill. I thought you were going to say out at sea then, because
No, mate, no, it was beyond that hill. That's where it was. I've got a photo of it, mate, so I'll email you after the live stream.
So then, Andy, so somebody online said that. So obviously somebody else had seen it.
Yeah, somebody else had seen it, mate, and somebody had said that it was. I'm sure they said it was a gasworks or an oil works, and they were letting off the excess fire, and that's what you could see glowing in the distance.
Yeah,
so I just took them as the word. But like you said, mate, you would know more than me, because obviously I'm not from there.
We sound like a know-all, don't I? But we would know, yeah, because we're up there quite often, and we don't see that. Out at sea, yeah, we know that there's one out at sea, and if you're looking down towards the Hornsey direction, but you're out on horizon and you can see it. So
no, it was definitely beyond that hill.
Yeah, that's good.
So that happened, mate, and then we were sat on one of the benches, and then that's when it was starting to become maybe a little bit too much, the feeling to kind of override, because I hadn't stopped since I started driving down Cliff Lane, and then I said to my partner, do you feel all right? And that's when she said to me, no, she went, it doesn't feel right to be here. Like, isn't it? I feel really uneasy. And she kept looking behind her whilst we were sat on this bench. And then as she said that, mate, I assumed back then it was a car door shutting. That's what it sounded like.
Right.
But the more I thought about it, the more it just sounded maybe metallic.
Yeah.
Like a metallic clunk. So when we heard that, we looked behind us, and there was no headlights. You couldn't see anything in the car park.
No.
And then we stood up, mate. We started walking in the direction of RAF Bempton.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
And we stopped off, mate. And then we were just looking out over the rise, and that's when my partner said, "Oh, I think I've just seen a light flash over towards where RAF Bempton is." So I said, "Oh, great. Well, we'll have a walk over there." So as we start walking over, mate, to RAF Bempton, when we got there, we were then stood in, that stand that's pretty much directly in front of it, isn't it? Yeah. Or maybe off to the side. So we would have stood there, and my partner then said, "Oh, look at that boat!" And there was a boat, mate, right down at the bottom of the cliffs.
Do you know? And you told us this, and I just can't. So as you're looking over, and I know it's difficult, people listening to this, because you might not be familiar with the area, but to see a boat under those cliffs, we never see a boat under those cliffs. It's very rocky. You'd see something, if we looked at it and we went with our hands and we thought, like, 8 to 10 inch out in theory from the cliffs. But you're saying right under the cliffs. Right.
So, when you stood on that stand, Paul, and you can see there's a cliff either side, isn't it? You can see directly through.
Yeah.
Through and down. Well, it was directly below there.
And that's
directly below there.
Well, so it must have been high tide, and
yeah, it was high tide, yeah.
Yeah, so
and it was lit up, mate, widely lit up, like blue, green, yellow, you name it. It had every type of coloured light on.
We do see pots around there, so it's possible it's a fishing boat retrieving pots. Because these guys, I should think they know surroundings as well as anybody. But we see the pots. But what I'm saying is, I've been going up there on and off now for 15 years. I've never seen a boat below those cliffs. Yeah. And I spend a lot of time at night up there, and I know everybody that's in team that we go up with, they'll not just back me up on it. Because if they'd seen it, they'd say, no, he's wrong. But they've never seen it. So that's interesting in itself.
Yeah, so my partner said, oh, there's a boat down there. So we're looking at this boat. Not very long, maybe 2 minutes. And then I heard something above us. And when I looked above us, mate, there was an aeroplane just circling the cliff tops.
Yeah.
I would say circle above us, but I don't think I'm that important. It was just circling above there, just circling above the cliff tops.
And I need to say as well that after you told me, there were no search and rescue that night.
No.
Because I had a little look into that. But sorry, go on, Andy. Sorry.
Well, I think it was you who told me, but it was the police plane.
Yeah.
I think somebody told me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that mate was flying about. And then as we were looking up there, we then heard voices and some car doors shutting at the car park this time.
Mm.
And when I looked over, there was 3 people walking down with head torches on, directly heading to where we were originally, down on the right-hand side. So I said to my partner, because I'd been talking to you during the day, hadn't I? And I said to Leanne, I'll flash my torch in case it's Paul or Linny or someone
so
from
we
the
can
troop.
just connect up with you guys. Yeah.
So I just flashed it, mate, a couple of times, and then they instantly turned around and started walking towards us. So I said, Leanne, maybe it is Paul or Linny or someone from the Truth Proof people or whatever. So they headed over, mate, headed over to where we were at the stand. And they come straight up to us, mate, at the stand, and he was probably, he was within distance that would make a lot of people uncomfortable how close he was.
So are there 3 males, or were there a female there, you said?
Yeah, so it was 2 men, mate, and a woman, so 2 males and a female. So they came straight up onto the stand because that's where we were stood. And they all had the head torches on. The head torches was directly in our faces, so I couldn't see them. And I put my hand up and I thought, what on earth is he doing?
Mm.
And he said, he didn't ask us our names or anything. It was totally strange encounter. The first thing he said to us was, "That's your Audi in the car park." Didn't ask us, told me. That's the way I took it. He said, "That's your Audi in the car park." And I was like, right, okay. And he said, have you seen anybody up here? No, he didn't, sorry. He said, what are you doing up here?
Yeah.
And I said, oh, well, we're just... The tone of his voice, mate, and how he was speaking to me put me on the back foot.
Yeah.
So I said to him, oh, we're just stargazing, because it's you can see loads of stuff out here. And then that's when I said to him, can you turn your head torch off? Because he was directly in my face.
Yeah.
And he just didn't respond. So I thought, fine. So I just whacked mine on the brightest setting. And I thought, if you're going to do me, I'm going to do it to you. And it was only when I lit it up, mate, I could see that there was another man behind him, and then it was a woman.
Yeah.
And then he turned his off once I did that. And I thought, well, I'm not turning mine off. So I just left mine on. And then that's when he said, have you seen anyone up here? And I said, like who? And he said, a nondescript white male.
Well, that's pretty vague, isn't it?
And I said, well, if he's nondescript, how do I know if I've seen him? I said, for all you know, it could be me.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's nondescript, like it's the craziest thing he said to me. And then I said, well, look, no, we haven't. We've seen no one up here. It's just me and my partner. And he said, we've had a report that someone's missing. And I was like, right, okay. And I said, well, I haven't seen anyone, mate. So, unfortunately, we can't help you. And then he just stood there for a minute and didn't say anything. So I was like, well, what would you like? What do you want me to do if I do see him? This nondescript white male. What do you want me to do? And he said, ring 999. And I said, and tell them what though? There's a nondescript white male missing.
Yeah.
what's 999 got to do with it? It was the most weird encounter, mate, ever. And
before you go into it next, just in case you forget, describe what they'd got on, because you know a little bit about.
Oh yeah, good to remind me then, mate. Yeah. So when I turned the headlight on, mate, they had on. If you go down the highway, or the motorway, sorry, and you see the guys who were doing like the works on the motorway. Yeah. And you can get them card you in 3 different colours, but you get them in green, orange, or you can get that real dark navy blue colour.
Right.
Well, they had those dark navy blue ones on, and they had the silver fluorescent strips on.
Yeah.
But when I looked at him, they were all brand new out of the packet. Right. Like, you take because I was a joiner as well. When you take worky clothes out, they've got that creasing, haven't they, from where they've been folded type thing. And they all had that on, mate, the exact same clothing. And it was all like that. And when I looked at them, it was at that point, after I said about when he said the missing person, I said, who are you? And he said, oh, we're search and rescue. And at the instant he said it, mate, I wouldn't say I was scared, but I started getting apprehensive.
Because you realised they weren't.
Because I knew they weren't, yeah. Because they had no kit on them. They had no equipment. They weren't dressed like search and rescue. They had no insignias or patches on them.
No.
And I don't want this to come across and sound bad, right, mate? But they weren't built like search and rescue.
Mm.
In fairness to them, they weren't climbing anywhere. Do you know what I mean? They weren't built like you find search and rescue people.
Yeah, yeah.
So as soon as he said that, mate, and I knew that they weren't, then my mind started going to overdrive.
And
I
what's your partner doing at this time? Is
she
she
was
silent?
she was just stood behind me, mate, off to the back there, and didn't say anything. But when he said that to me, there was search and rescue, and I knew there weren't, my mind started going into overdrive. And I don't know whether it was maybe like a combat indicator thing from being in the army, and my mind just started going overdrive. And I was thinking, they're not search and rescue, so why are they here? What are they here for? How do I get out of here? How do I get back to the car in the shortest amount of time? All those things started going through my head. So I said, look, I'll just ring 999, like you said, if anyone comes, just to try and get them to go away.
Yeah.
And like I say, they didn't say bye or anything. Literally, all three of them just turned around at the same time and walked off.
Yeah.
Towards RAF Bempton.
Yeah.
And that's when they walked off. Only one of them, on their back, had a sticker that said search and rescue.
Okay.
Which in itself, mate, was all wrong as well. Like, for only one of them to have it.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't, like, usually, mate, like when I've worked with them in the past, it'll say Cleveland Search and Rescue, and they always usually wear red or black. They've always got a colour on that they can easily identify.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that you're familiar with this as well, aren't you?
Yeah, because I've worked with them several times, mate, when I've been, whilst I was in the army, helping look for people.
Yeah.
So it's always Bridleton Search and Rescue or Cleveland or wherever it would be. And they've always got a uniform. They've always got a certain way of carrying things out. So I knew they weren't who they said they were. So like I said, mate, they all turn round and then they all walk off in the same direction towards RAF Bempton.
Yeah.
And as they've walked off, mate, they've all got their heads down and they're in single file and they're all walking along that track towards RAF Bempton. And I was trying to say to Leanne, I was like, they're not looking for anyone. If you've got your head at the ground, how are you finding anyone? And they're all in single file, mate. They weren't in an extended line, walking forward to try to make like the biggest amount of area covered if somebody was missing. So as they walk up, mate, off up this thing, I thought to myself, right, this is our chance now. We'll just go the opposite direction back to the car park.
Right.
So I says to Leanne, look, on the astronomical chance that they are search and rescue, I don't want them to keep thinking we're the people that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So I said, look, if there is someone genuinely missing, we'll just go back to the car. So we heads off, mate, walking back to the car. And we kind of been walking, mate, very long, 20, 30 seconds maybe. And I don't know how, Paul, they covered that distance that quick.
Really? They're behind you?
Yeah, so bear in mind, mate, so they've head off, mate, towards RAF Bempton, and they were well past RAF Bempton by the time we set off.
Yeah.
Then we've set off the other direction, so we're going opposite directions. Like I say, and the next thing I know, I could hear the footsteps, and they were right behind us, like breathing down our necks behind us. That's how close they were. So as we were going up...
Did they speak to you? Any conversation as they going up that path?
No, didn't say anything to me, mate. No, didn't say anything, didn't speak. They were just right behind us, like breathing down our neck, close to us. So as we get in the car, I said to Leanne, don't worry about taking your boots or anything off, just get in the car. So as we get to the car park, mate, we were parked directly in front of, you know, the big hedgerow, and you've got the RSPB there.
Yeah,
so we were parked directly in front of the hedgerow. So as we get up there, I opened the car, and so Leanne is about getting their side, and I went round, obviously, getting the driver's side. And as I did, another two people jumped out of that hedgerow, and it was another man and a woman, dressed exactly the same, no kit, no equipment, same brand spanking uniform.
But just about hiding in a hedgerow.
Yeah, honestly, mate, they came directly out of that hedgerow.
Yeah.
They weren't stood on the concrete in front of it. They came through the hedgerow.
Yeah. Strange.
And as soon as them two came out of the, the hedgerow, I made eye contact with the woman because I took a step back, and she then said to me, "Have you two been interrogated yet?" And then I looked confused, like
because you would be,
because it was the phrase, mate. It was the word. Have you been interrogated?
Yeah.
That was what threw me, and then that was when my partner was like, what would we be interrogated for? We haven't done anything wrong. And then that was when the guy who had originally spoken to me down at the stand, he then spoke up and said, I've already spoken to them, they haven't seen anything.
Right. But what a weird thing to say. I've interrogated. You know, It's just I know we could be reading all sorts into it, but there's a lot of things there's markers that's so that there's something really off with that, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I've spoken to them in the past, mate, they've always been, when I've worked with them in the past, they've always been extremely good people, like good with people and good with the public.
Yeah.
They're always friendly, approachable, identify who they are as soon as they speak. You know, they've got a certain way with them because they have to be, because 9 times out of 10, they're rescuing someone in a difficult position.
Yeah.
So they have to be.
So you've established then, Andy, that, or they've established that you're not the people they're looking for. Let's assume the search and rescue.
Yeah.
The other two that have jumped out of the hedge, which is weird because it's not going nowhere in that hedge. They've asked if you've been interrogated. They've been spoken to and told, so they should stand down. So then it kind of stepped up a gear a little bit, then, didn't it?
Yeah, didn't it? Yeah. To be fair, mate, it kind of got worse. It kind of got worse when we left, weirdly. Yeah, so after that happened, mate, so we get in the car and I'm sat there and then I'm looking around and there was a white pickup truck with no markings on. And then there was a little red car and I can't remember now, mate, what it was. But it was, the size of like an old Nissan Migra, that size of car. And the three original guys, the original 2 guys as a woman were in the white pickup truck. And the 2 people who came out the hedgerow were in the red car, the little car, mate, yeah. So I said to my partner, look, as soon as I'll wait for these to drive off and then we'll go. And we sat there, mate, for maybe 10 minutes. And they were both in their cars and they just weren't going.
Now, they got headlights on and they started, are they, at that point?
No, not the cars. They were just sat in the cars, mate, doing nothing, which is even creepier.
Yeah.
So at that point, I said, look, I'm just going to go. We're going to get out of here. So I reversed the car, mate, and I heads off back to the Airbnb. And as soon as I passed off, mate, past Cliff Lane, the feeling that I'd had all evening went. Like the initial like terrified feeling that went. But I still had a certain element of dread because I didn't know who those people were, and now they were following me, which was my main worry. So as we get to the T junction, we're turning right. As we get the T junction, that the red car turns off left, and away it goes. And I had a bit of relief then. I thought, they're just going to go left.
Yeah. So you get to the bottom of Cliff Lane. You've got a right and a left.
Yeah.
And you're doing a left back to Flamborough.
No, mate. No, so I was only staying in Buckden.
All right. So you're doing a right. I was
doing a right, mate, to Buckden. So I've turned right, and then that red car's turned left, and I thought, fantastic. The white pickup truck will go the same way. So as I turn right, then I look in the review mirror and I see the white pickup truck turn right. And it follows me all the way to Buckden, and then it follows me to the Airbnb. And I turn into the Airbnb and park up on the gravel. And as we both get out of the car, it's then parked in the driveway, just watching us get out of the car. And I said, Leanne, go on the Airbnb and we'll lock the door type thing. So I grabbed the bags and that, mate, out of the car and lock it. And they were just stood there, mate, watching us get out of the car and then into the Airbnb. And then obviously we get in the Airbnb, and then I assume the white pickup truck drives off at some point.
Initially when you're talking about this, Andy, I could imagine people thinking, well, they might be just search and rescue with new kit on, and or there's some anomaly, but that's not normal, is it?
No.
The end part of your strange experience, and it's not paranormal, people, we realise that, but I think it's a good example, once again, why, not just in East Yorkshire, but all around these locations, you shouldn't be going to them on your own. And even yourself, Andy, you've been in military and you can probably look after yourself, but there's only one of you, isn't there? Your partner, I'm not saying she can't, but you'd really need
you're right, mate,
than 1 or 2 people, don't you? You need more.
Yeah. Because
that could have, I don't know, it was sinister in itself, but it could have even been worse. What if you'd have been on your own?
Well, you know what it is, mate, as mad as it's going to sound, I think I would have been a bit more brazen if I was by myself. Yeah,
because you're vulnerable for her.
Yeah, because I just knew I had to get us out of that situation.
Yeah.
But I like I say, mate, when we did that live stream before, and I've been to Afghanistan, I've never been that scared as I was that night on those cliff tops when those people arrived.
Really?
Like the entire vibe of them was totally wrong. There was something so off about them. And like I say, mate, the more I think about it, the way that the 2 people out of the 3 didn't speak at all, they all turned around at the same time. They all walked off in the same direction, same spacing. The way they closed the distance that fast. And the whole. Well, I can remember before I went up there, mate, and you messaged me, didn't you? Said, "Oh, I hope you get something. I hope you get to see something," and I did. Just not what most people get.
And closing that distance, when you think about it, Andy, you would have thought you'd have heard them running down that path.
Yeah, 100%, mate. 100%. I would have heard them coming if they were running. And honestly, mate, the next thing I heard was literally a footstep behind us, and they were literally breathing down me at the back of our necks.
It's strange, isn't it? And like you said, if you'd have been on your own, I don't mean you'd have challenged them and wanted to roll around the floor with them, but you'd have probably been a little bit more upfront, and because everything about it, you 3 people coming up with head torches on in your face. In the nature of their job, they must know that that's not the way to approach. You could have been a vulnerable adult, and so that's not a good thing to do, is it? When you're talking to someone on edge of a 300-foot cliff, you know. So there's so many little quirky bits in that. That really. I can't blame you for how you felt, and I don't look down at the questions, because there's probably some questions for this, and the reason I'm saying I daren't, because we've just about exhausted that. But I can see a question here, and I think if you want to, Andy, well, go what you think.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll assume that they're addressed to us both, unless it says it's just to me. So let's have a look here, because I think as we work down, we might have some for you. So these cryptids are not flesh and blood from another time. These cryptids are not flesh and blood from another time, conjured up by shamans from long ago. They're not. I'm not sure, Steve. I don't know, mate. And I know Steve is a great supporter of Truth Proof, and he's got a really inquiring mind. But where do you think these things are from, Andy?
I definitely don't. I years ago, mate, when I was a kid, and the main theory wasn't it, that the cryptids were real, like flesh and blood? That was the only theory.
Yeah.
The older I get, mate, and the more things I experience, the more I feel they're not flesh and blood, and there's a paranormal, supernatural, ethereal element to them.
I'm on the same page. I think that myself, and we're all here looking into the unexplained phenomena, and you've experienced a bit of it, where over your lifetime, and so why shouldn't they be from somewhere else?
I definitely think, mate, earlier when somebody said about their feed on fear, I 100% believe that's true. Yeah, that's what they do. They interact with us to get whatever energy they get off the fear, whatever it gives them. Whether there's some type of energy that it must give off. Yeah, that's what they feed on. I believe that to be true.
They're feeding off fear. Now I've got a question here. I think it's for you, but it's not in caps, so I haven't had time to read it. But well, I have, but I haven't read it. But please put up your questions in caps. Andy H. Back and checked your story about feeling the dread you encountered. I remember watching it on the night.
Oh yeah, that was it was the live stream I did with you, and that would have been about when I was on Dartmoor. Yeah, and I went into that pocket of dread, which is maybe about 10 meters long. Yeah, and you could run in and out of it. That's what they're on about there.
And just before you came on, and I could see you sat there, bottom of the screen, and I talked about Mark, who comes up onto cliff tops, Andy, being in all sorts of situations, and he said he walked into this.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So I haven't got a clue, and I'm not sure if you have. But what are they? What are we walking into? Are we walking into some other environment that's not of this world, or some thin area where things are bleeding through, or is it something? I'm only asking for opinions here from people in chat as well, or is it something that's impressing this feeling on us? What do you think?
A lot of the stuff, Paul. A lot of my stuff, I won't say tainted, that's wrong, but a lot of the stuff that I see and experience, I view through a military lens, because I was in there for so long. So those things, mate, I experience and Mark experience, I've always viewed them as a trap. So, like when you're in the army, you set off a trip flare. Yeah. If someone's trying, I think those pockets of dread or fear, what I call them, I think that's what they are. They're traps that are left. So when you walk into them, something knows that you're there, that feeds on fear. Like you use a trail cam.
Yeah.
I think those pockets of dread and fear are the same type of the same purpose.
What a great way of looking at it. Just so, unless you don't want to, just give us an outline of walking into this fear. Because I mean, this question, baby with the lasers, put that up, and people didn't hear what when you came on.
Yeah,
and if you did, they'll probably want to hear it again.
Yeah,
just tell us about it.
So it was when I was based at Dartmoor on a course, and we were on exercise, and I was section commander, and I could see one night I could hear whispers of voices, but when you can't make out what the voice is saying.
Yeah.
And I could see lights in the woodland, in the woodblock. And I was I was angry to say the least, because I thought if the directing staff see that, they're going to come over and we're going to get beasted all night. We'll be awake, we'll be going through the rivers, everything, it'll be a nightmare. So I've ran off into the woodblock to tell them to shut up and get back to the harbour area, because we're all going to get into trouble. And as I've run into the woodblock, the lights have disappeared. So all the lights that I could see and the voices has all stopped. So then I'm stood there, and then I'm saying, I know you're in here. Get back to the harbour area. Get back to where we're all set up, because we're going to get in trouble. As I've started to walk back, mate, to the harbour area, I walked into, like I said before, mate, this pocket of fear, this pocket of dread, and it felt like walking into soup. That's what it felt. I could physically feel.
Yeah,
I could physically feel walking into it, and I was absolutely petrified, to the point where I took off running. And like I say, mate, I must have run. It wasn't very long, maybe about 10 meters, and I physically felt I came out the other side of this pocket of dread.
Right.
And as soon as I came out the other side, I felt totally normal, and I was calm. There was nothing wrong. And that's when I stopped and I turned around, and then I could feel. Then I walked back into it, and I could feel. And it's the instant you walk back into it, the anxiety, the dread, the fear, kick back in, and that's what Baby with a Laser was on about.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what do you think, Andy, to idea that could have been some military type of technology that they placed there, an altered environment, and got somebody like you without any knowledge to run into it, not even thinking of paranormal, and let's see how this affects this man. Let's experiment on a few people. What do you think?
To be fair, mate, I've never thought about that before, but that could be that's a very good theory. I could see that totally being true if it was some type of infrasound weapon they were testing out, or something along those 100%. Mate, I believe that could be true, like you just said. 100%. I've never thought about that.
Yeah, because they would have known, Andy, wouldn't they, that somebody would have the balls, should we say, to actually run into that darkness and try and look. You're going to get us all into trouble here. We're all going to be marching up and down and running through rivers and everything, pack it in. So they knew somebody, either 1, 2, or 10, would go in.
100%, mate. Yeah,
and you did.
Like if anything, mate, especially when you're in trained on the course, what you do is totally predictable, because you're taught what to do at every step of the way. So, like you say, they could set that up and say, if this goes here, he's instantly going to go there, because we've told him to do it. So so 100%, that could be right.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think of it the first time that you spoke about it, but it would just come into my mind then. But it doesn't apply. Excuse me. I can't see how it'd apply to every scenario that I've been told about, because some of these situations are very old. They're going back 50 and 60 years, where people are talking about this descent into this lower silence and this overwhelming feeling of fear. And then when you look in the annals of folklore and you read between the lines of the stories, and they talk about the feelings of, you said the word dread and foreboding, and I wonder if we're talking about the same thing there. So it really is fascinating.
I mean, I suppose, mate, there could be, it could be a bit of, but they both could be true. They could be trying to reverse engineer what that was.
Yeah, absolutely.
A bit like the aircraft.
I see there's a really sensible question here from Linny. Can we see your socks? I've got none on, to be honest. So now that Linny's popped up, mate, I spoke to Linny at the Awakening conference about what I've just spoken about, and Linny can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Liddy said to me he spoke to a friend he has at the Bridleton Search and Rescue.
Yeah.
And they'd said that they weren't up there that Saturday night. They weren't there.
Yeah.
So-
just confirm that in if you want, if you're still watching it. And I'll probably see him tomorrow night. He's on about buying me loads of beer, and which I'm really looking forward to. There we go. So let's on about that. Let's have a look. What was Paul? That might invite them. Oh, I see that. I'm looking for a question in capital letters, and I realise I end up missing them because they're not all in capitals. Let's have a look at this, Paul. Well, this applies to us both here. I feel that these things are more what's that? Supernatural instead neurological. Excellent. I didn't think I could read that.
Super technological.
Yeah, super technological. They can create portals, microwave wormholes, and enter our dimension for various purposes. And who's to say that you're not right? But do you think that they're super intelligent than Nightbird? What do you think? Or are they just observing us like we observe cattle and we observe sheep, and we look at a dolphin and we say, oh, do you know they've got a language? We haven't a clue what they're saying. We haven't got a clue what a dolphin's talking about, have we? Well, I know when my dog's happy. I can see it in his face. Yeah. But and he knows when I'm talking to him, but I'm sure he knows the trigger words. In the morning, I'll say chicken. He knows that he's going to get some chicken. But he don't know about chicken. He don't understand it. And that's not to downplay the dog. But are we that dumb that these intelligences look upon us like that? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, there's that saying, isn't there? I can't remember who said it, where it's superior technological advancements are indistinguishable from magic. I know I've butchered that, but that could be along the similar lines to what Nightbird's saying. I like to think of the supernatural and paranormal lines because I find that more interesting. That's where my mind goes. But yeah, it could be true about portals.
Have you any plans to come up there in future this year, Andy?
Yes, mate. Yeah, I'm definitely coming down before the end of the year. That's definitely on my wish list, mate. Yeah, 100%. I'll be back down.
Yeah,
before the end of the year.
Chris came up last night and he had a hell of a trek, really, hours and hours, because he had to do a big detour because of the fires on the moors.
Yeah,
he came down and it were a bit fruitless. We didn't see anything, but it was just good to spend. It's great to spend time with people, like-minded minds, isn't it? So let's have a look at this question. Are you still okay for time, Andy?
Oh yeah, I'm good for it. Yeah, let's let it roll on.
Blazer, that werewolf is going after the sheep, so why would a totally paranormal creature need to eat? You make a good point, and I get where you're coming from. I don't know. All I do know is that I have spoken to Native American Indians, and a guy called Larry Sespooch being one. And if you do some Googling on this guy, because he goes around teaching the old traditions and lots of things, and I asked him about the skinwalkers and his views on all this. I mean, he's getting on in years, and he's got a lot of knowledge and a knowledge that's been handed down to him. And he says that these things, their ability is to slip between worlds. I'm not saying he's right. I'm not saying I'm right, but I've seen it as plausible. And he says that when they're here, they have to eat. They have to kind of obey the laws of physics, and they could be killed. Or do you know what I'm saying? I'm not just trying to find reasons for the sake of finding reasons, but I haven't got an answer to what you're saying. And you make a good point. Why would a creature like that need to eat?
Well, I think, mate, on that one, I don't think they care what it is, as long as it's a sentient being. Like, so for example, whether I'm giving off fear or whether a sheep's giving off fear, I don't think the phenomena cares personally. I think if something's given off fear, that's good enough for it.
And you make a good point. And what I'm meaning here, Blazer, is Andy's just sort of helped me out with that one, because when we were getting the animal fatalities, and we'll not say the other word because it doesn't like it. When we were getting the animal fatalities, what were I finding? And remember, 50 livestock in this particular area got hit over a 3-year period. That was domestic or farm livestock, not including the sheep, not including the deer, the badger, and the fox that I were finding. But most of them only had ears removed, eyes removed, facial stripping of skin. So that doesn't sound like a natural born predator. And a lot of the times the natural, like the badger's an omnivore, so it'll eat everything, won't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They weren't touching them. For some reason, they weren't touching them. So I don't know. You make a good point, Blazer. You really do. But I haven't got an answer. People must get sick of somebody who sets themselves up, right, 4 books on the unexplained and other people's accounts and my own book. But if I had an answer, this channel would have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and people would be saying, he's the guy to go to. But I think that people prefer the honesty, and instead of the BS that some people put out, and I'll tell you what these things are and I'll tell you what's happening. I don't know. So there we go.
Before the next question, Paul. So after the Awakening conference, and I met you in person, and I spoke to Chris Turner, and I spoke to Linny and stuff. I started my own channel on YouTube.
And I saw you put it up in small letters. So Gemma, if you can tell us what it is, and Gemma will put it up in caps for you.
Shadows and Sightings, mate. It's called
Shadows and Sightings, and where we're going to find you on YouTube.
On YouTube, mate, yeah.
But is there an email address if anybody wants to contact you?
Yeah, it's Shadows and Sight. In fact, mate, I'll put it in the chat if people want to email me. So off the back of that, mate, my mum ended up watching the videos that I did, and then she went back and watched the video that I did with you.
Yeah.
On Truth Proof.
And what did she think?
So this mate, right, is where it gets even better. So when I said originally that I thought it was my dad's side where all the paranormal and supernatural stuff come down, and my gran had that haunted wardrobe and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So my mum then rings me and says, I've just watched the video you did with Paul. I was like, oh yeah, what do you think? She was like, it's not from your dad's side. That's from our side that comes down. I was like, what? And she's then she was like, oh yes, like so my mum's got 4 brothers,
right?
And when they lived in St. Paul's Road, mate, in Thornaby, she said that they were terrorized by an old man who used to come out with a wardrobe, and he used to sit on the chest. He used to pull them out of bed. She said it was that bad that they used to go to bed with a crucifix, the boys, because every single night something would happen to them.
And it didn't discriminate then between the female and the males. It went for them all.
No, mate, no. So it was only the boys.
Oh, only the boys.
Yeah. Okay. So there was 4 boys.
When you're telling me your mum's experience, I thought your mum had experienced it. Sorry.
No. So my mum just said that she used to wake up with them screaming at night,
right,
with stuff happening. And she said you need to speak to your Uncle Chris, because he was the one who's affected the most.
And have you spoke to him?
No, mate, no, not since then. It wasn't too long ago. She messaged me. I did speak to my Uncle Chris about because he works on the oil rigs and the wind turbines. And I asked him about UFOs, and he said every trip he goes to, he must have 5 or 6 sightings every time he goes out there. Yeah,
just out in the middle of the North Sea.
Yeah. He said it's non-stop to the point where it happens that often that people just don't talk about it anymore. It's just that accepted.
I've got a friend who's a diver on the rigs. Obviously, he's under. When we say a diver, I think people imagine that he's underwater 24 hours a day. He's not, as you'll know that. And he tells me about Coast Guard contacting the rig, asking them if they've seen spheres of light and if they've seen certain things, with no explanation. So yeah, it's fascinating. So Shadows and Sightings.
Yeah.
So can people in chat, please, after this live stream tonight, get over to Shadows and Sightings and give give Andy a bit of support, and let's see if we can boost his subscribers up a little bit, because you can see what Andy's about, and he's as genuine as they come. So right, our Laura's just said, and I missed that, Laura, because it came up in something else. I don't know whether she can comment or she can't. So let's just have a look at this. Are we okay still for time?
Yeah, as long as you want, mate, as long as you want.
Vampire energy draining reminds me of the Dimmerge Archons theory. I wonder if people who've had experiences would have particular access to these beings via things like go on. Is this ayahuasca? I think is that. Sorry about my reading there, but
Yeah, no, you're right, mate. Yeah, ayahuasca. I think that's
yeah.
the Indian.
That's the vine of the dead, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
The
It gives you the
spirit vine.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could be right. You know, and loads of things like that. So not so much a drug, but a passageway to the other realm, and maybe it just weakens our defenses and allows us to see these things. So instead of people thinking, oh, people are just tripping out and it's just the comforts of madness, maybe they are actually entering some other realm, because I think we underestimate the power of our own minds and our ability to create and our ability to access things with the right set of circumstances, which is where Terry is probably going with that. But energy draining vampires, what's your thoughts? We aren't talking too much about the word drugs.
I do think, mate. I think that allows a two-way connection in the same way, mate. That I think, you know, when you go up onto the cliff tops or some of the stuff I've experienced, I think that's the same. We just haven't got the ability anymore to tap into it.
Yeah.
So when what the phenomena does to us, I feel we have the same ability to do it back. We've just lost that ability or forgotten it, or there's something blocking it.
Do you know? And do you think it's our lack of connection with the earth? You know, we talk about, I don't know about let's all walk about barefoot and get grounded, but we're absolutely, I do it every time, glued to the TV screen, glued to YouTube, glued to our phones, all distractions that take us away from what is the real, in a way. Do you think there's any of that in it, Andy?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I believe that's why, you know, when I was in, I'm just putting my email address, mate, in here for people.
Yeah, do that. But and while you're doing that, because when Andy told me about the experience on Dartmoor, a lovely guy got in touch with me, a traveller, and I'm definitely not saying his name because he's expressed wishes that I don't say his name, and he'd seen and experienced something. But he said to me, he said, if you approach the traveller community and tell them what you're about and approach them respectfully, he said, I think you'll be surprised what they will tell you and what stories that they will impart to you. And when you think about it, I don't mean they're all sat around campfires, you know, because some life has evolved from those days. But I would have thought a lot of the traveller community are more in touch with the outdoors and Mother Earth, should we say, than bulk people sat watching Emmerdale Farm and Coronation Street. You know, I could be wrong.
No, I agree, mate. I think that's why a lot of the stuff I saw was on Dartmoor, because we were out in the wilderness, out on the moor for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, and we had no phones, mate, or no technology. Pretty much everything was back to basics. So it literally was just, how many was there? 18 of us. There was just the 18 of us out there with no phones, no laptops, no distractions. You literally, mate, were living on the land for 4 weeks at a time.
And I mean, if you want to, or we can we'll go down a few questions. We're going to say, tell us a little bit about it, because I'm sure that there's people here who, I don't mean they forgot, but excuse me, there'll be people who've not heard that some of those experiences. But let's look at John Paul Body. I believe they feed on energy. They need this energy to remain in corporeal form. Fear is just an easier energy to consume, other than when it's given freely. Yeah, it's great point, John. And there's a guy who's had some incredible experiences, Andy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I've heard about a couple of them, mate, on the live streams.
Yeah, well, you know, when you meet on somebody that gets in touch, and when you start speaking to him, you just know they're on the level. And I know he's sat there listening to it, and he probably thinks, oh, don't talk like that, because he's pretty reserved, you know, but it's true. Yeah. All I saw were genuine and all I felt were genuine when he were relaying these incredible accounts or stories. They're not stories; they're more than stories. They're proper life experiences.
You know, just then, it when he said, "I believe they feed on fear."
Yeah,
and he agreed, because I said that earlier, didn't I? But one of the wee things about that experience that I just mentioned there in Bempton, that the entire night, mate, up until that aeroplane arrived, there was no noise.
Right.
So you couldn't hear the waves. There was nothing. Like, it was absolutely still. Like, there was nothing. which
Yeah.
I don't know whether maybe that added to
Yeah.
the fear, you know,
Well-
that there was absolutely nothing.
Well, we did I say we. I put a short on earlier in the week, a little film on with Gareth, the former police officer, who with his partner had seen those weird animals in the
Oh,
corn.
hyenas. Yeah, I watched that. Yeah.
And he talked about there's more to this story because he saw something else later on. But do you know, during playing that and watching all the comments, loads of people, and I don't just mean one or two, talk about being up there and being up there in the daytime, like you said, and it's just beautiful. Seabirds, people, nice atmosphere, but it just switches on a night, and it's not a nice place. It doesn't feel nice. It feels unwelcoming at times, and we felt that, you know. So, and I don't think it's because I'm impressing those thoughts on people, even by talking about them, because in grand scheme of things, Andy, we're just like a little pinhead in the ocean of people that visit that area. So, and the ones that are getting in touch is because they've had an experience or something's happened, and then they do a little bit of Googling and then they find you. Do you know what I mean? So that's how that happens. Just in a way, like you did, in a way.
I do believe, mate, there's I've always thought, and I still think it now, it's one of my main theories. I do believe there's a genetic element to it. That down the line you have your family or there's some genetic lineage that picks you out to see phenomena. In the same way that you get loads of people who aren't interested in the subject, mate, but they'll go down the cliffs and they'll see that dog man they thought was a statue.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Like if you have no interest in it, why would you see it? There has to be a reason, or I mean, maybe there doesn't have to be a reason.
But it's a trigger, isn't it? After that, though, it becomes you've almost like pulled the trigger and you're enveloped in it. Then you're off with that bullet down this road of strangeness. So I don't know. I wish I did. So let's have a look at Sparks. And I got your email. Obviously, you know I did, Mark, and I will be forwarding that to Andrew Collins. I'll get in touch with Andrew for you. This guy's got a lot of knowledge, to be honest. So, hi, Paul, electronics. We get pure amplification and resonant frequency. Maybe we experience these phenomena when we resonate with the Earth frequency, 7.68 hertz. Do you know? And I think we need you back on live stream, to be honest, Mark, and because I'm not sort of knowledgeable enough to speak about that. All I can say is, you've maybe got a point. Do you understand that, Andy? I don't.
No, I don't, mate. No, that's above my pay grade, mate. That I don't have a clue.
And I do know that a good friend of myself and Les's and you know, Les who used to live stream with me is Peter Masters, and he's a bit of an electronic genius as well. And he put it out there with some of his friends the other day to see whether they could somehow create the 1.6 gigahertz. And I need to speak to Sparks about this because and maybe put you, Pete and Sparks together. And I don't want to labour on it because I'll be losing myself in the terminology because I haven't got the knowledge. But basically, they got the 1.6 gigahertz, but it wasn't from anything that they were familiar with. And I'm sorry for being vague, so I better move on. Else like I said, I'll lose myself. Let's have a look what this fella says. I think something definitely harmed that man that was found naked outside the farmhouse. I know which one you're on about, Dazza, and I just don't know the ins and outs of it. That was from 1991, and that was on Bempton Lane, and that unfortunate man was found under the window of the.
I thought it was him. I thought it was that one.
Yeah. But you know, obviously something harmed him. Obviously, because he weren't in a good way when he was found. But I think the $1 million question, Dazza, is what, and we just don't know. And all we'd be doing is speculating. And as I say every time, you know, it's somebody's son, it's somebody's husband. We just don't know. So we've got to be careful. But yeah, good question. Let's have a look. Vampire energy draining reminds me of we've done this one.
Yeah, you've done that one, mate. Yeah,
I've done that one. It's weird because I know what Les felt like now. Just, let's have a look. Right, let's have a look. What's Linny saying? Paul, me and Mark saw something last night. Yes, they did. So Mark, who we've spoken about, or I've spoken about tonight, with his torch, and he lit up the little arm's length 2p piece above the hill in the sky. Mark were doing it again last night. To be honest, Mark can't stop doing it now. And he's gone from a guy who never put a torch on because he says it spoils your night vision, as you know.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah.
But it's just absolutely blown his mind when he saw this little moon light up. So he's doing it all the time to the point it's annoying. We did it last night and they saw it last night. I know I should have been raving about it, Linny, but I'd forgot about it until you said. I didn't see it. Once again, I saw the one with Mark, but Mark and Linny saw it last night. So that was interesting. And once again, if I'd have just had my camera following his torch, but you'd have to have your camera on all night. I'm being a bit excessive there, but he puts it on a lot. Let's put it that way. Right, let's have a look. We must be getting down these questions because we're going to go to Dartmoor if we run out of questions. You do know that, don't you?
Yeah, perfect, mate. Yeah, like I say, I'm good for time. So.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely got to finish before 9 because I want you guys, if you've got the time, jump over onto Last Transmission and watch the short that's going out tonight. It's not long. It was only 15-20 minutes, and I'll be visiting. I visit a place called Hugate, which is a place that me and Steve Ashbridge over the years. People will be familiar with me talking about Steve. We spent loads of times in these locations trying to document these strange lights. Ben's put, and a good question. This I don't think he's going to know this, Ben. What sort of boat? Because it were lit up, and you're looking down about 280 foot in the night, Ben. But
you know what, mate? I have no clue. If it was something tank related or military vehicle, that probably would have been able to help you, mate. But I've boats.
No, but I'm glad he's brought it up. To be honest with you, because I thought about it as you were talking and then forgot to ask. So as these guys, these two men and this woman are talking to you, and they've got headlights in your face or headlight in your face, then you do that. Were they aware of the boat? Did you have any awareness of the boat when this confrontation was taking place, or when they left? Did you have a look down to see if the boat was still there?
So the weird thing about that boat, I mean, you know what is, mate? I'm saying it's a boat. I just saw weird lights in the water. We both did, and we assumed it was a boat. But as we see the boat, that's when I looked up because we heard the voices and the lights in the car park. Then they've walked down. They now flash my flashlight. When we've turned back and looked, the boat was gone.
Right.
So then by the time they come over, the boat was totally gone. Then
I don't want to create a mystery again where there ain't one, but that's the first time you've done the human thing, and there's a boat.
Yeah.
There's something on water.
Yeah.
We're below 280 foot cliffs. I've already said to you tonight, and Linny would say to you and anybody else, we never see a boat below those cliffs. Never.
Yeah.
In years and years. So you don't hear a diesel engine because all it could be is a little fishing cobble.
Yeah, could have been, mate. But
what I'm saying is, you would hear the diesel, the boom, 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 boom. So
it was silent.
The silent. So Ben 22, thanks for that, because you've just peeled another skin off that onion. Because although it probably were a boat, you've just kind of confirmed that you're not even sure if it were a boat.
No, like you said, mate, my brain has just associated lights, water, boat, and we've just assumed it's a boat. But it was multicolored. It was multicolored, mate. There was blue, yellow, green, red, you name it.
That's fascinating as well, because when we look at thanks for that, Lee. When we look at the boats out at sea, we don't see multicolors. We see a white light, occasionally a yellow light, or even a green light, but usually just one. We don't see.
No, it was lit up like a Christmas tree.
It's a shame if you put a question in and it's not in caps, because chances are I'm going past it. And let's do this. Hi Andy, very weird and random comment, but I have that exact.
Yep. So which way am I going? That thing over there. Yeah. So that was from is from Kenya. Believe it or not, that one.
Wow. And this guy bought it he believes in a market in Newcastle.
Yeah. So one of the lads, mate, when I left the army, I never went to Kenya. But one of the lads went to Kenya and got that. And when I left, he gave me it as like a present, as like a keepsake.
Yeah, that's cool. And chances of that. So, right, we've got one more question from Lisa here. These beings have no faces, have light for faces. They look like torches on their head. They shapeshift. I've seen loads of them. Wow, where do you live, Lisa? And what would you do, Lisa? Do you try and you maybe don't? Would you try and film these things? I mean, we're stood up there. We're trying to get some documented proof. Why are we trying to get proof of it? Because I'm sat here telling people about all the things that we've seen and experienced. Andy's talking about some of the things he's experienced. And it'd be brilliant to show you guys. That doesn't detract from what you're saying, Lisa. But is there a reason that if you've seen loads of them and you're describing them in that detail, why you've not got a picture of them? Do they suggest to you that you shouldn't take pictures? That's good enough for me if that's what's coming from into your mind. I'm just curious. But thank you.
I did get a chance to tell you, mate, at the Awakening, because obviously when you're at Awakening, you were doing your presentation, weren't you, on Hummingbee? Yeah. And then so was Linny. Then obviously when you go, everybody wants to talk to you, don't they? So I had 5 minutes with you, but I was talking to Chris Turner.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, mate, that, after I did that episode with you, about 6 months ago, maybe, one of the lads got in touch with me who I was in the army with. And he said to me, he said me and lads didn't know that I was in this type of thing. A few did who were maybe interested on the edges, and he was like, I bet you wish you were asked to go down to Wales for that UFO thing. So I said to him,
wow, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
Get him to talk to us.
So I said to him, what UFO thing? And he said, yeah. He said, we went to work one day and he said they wanted 8 lads to go down to be extras for a film.
Oh, I thought you were about a proper sighting.
No. So this is what I was saying to him. So I said to him, all right, okay. So he said, we head down to Wales, mate, for this to be extras on this movie. I said, all right, okay. He said, but we weren't extras, mate. We were doing like guard duty around this big crashed aircraft in the side of the hill, and they had all these people taking stuff in and out. And I was like, all right. I was like, I never heard that. And he was like, yeah, the film never came out.
Right.
And so then what he was saying to me was, me and the lads over the years have always said, were we just thick and we believed it was a thing? Because when they went down there, usually, mate, you would see, because in the past, lads have done it and they've seen well-known actors, your Brad Pitts, you've seen people you recognise. He said, when we went down there, he said, we were like doing the cordon for it and they've saying it was for a film, but he said there was no cameras there. There was no actors there. There was all the real deal stuff that we would see out on the ground, out on tour and stuff.
So what year would that be then, Andy? Or don't you know?
So that, mate, would have been around the 2010-ish mark, around about then.
That's fascinating. And you know, other night on last transmission, I talked about some of the cases that I've looked into, and and we talked about it on Clifftops. But we've got Hummingbee, Wilsthorpe. There's one just as big that I've never spoken about because the people want their identities protected. Hopefully, I'll be able to. They might let me have a little bit of leverage and do something with it. But that's 3, and that's one person that's found 3. So how many are out there where people are just sat on this information? And you know, I think there's a lot more out there than what we realize. I really do. Because
I said to him, well, did you get any selfies? Did you get any photos? And he was like, oh no, he was like, being down there, it was like being on tour. He was like, the ID got taken off us, phones got taken off us. He was like, literally, we were clean fatigue down there, stopping people. And
did they never got to see the aircraft then?
No, they saw it. Yeah, they saw the aircraft crashing at the side of the hill.
Right.
And he said it was buried. Maybe a third of it was buried into the hill.
Right. Okay.
And there was all these people around it doing experiments or taking measurements. But he said the weird thing was there was no cameras.
Yeah.
There was nobody recorded them. So he said if it was a film, I don't know what they were.
Yeah, I don't know what the purpose of it was. Just make a film without using a camera.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's a fascinating one, Andy. Let's just weird encounter indeed. So paranormal visitor says, are we still okay for 5 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah, of course we are, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look. Gil, could the Men in Black could be the Men in Black or something else? I'm not sure what it applies to that one though. What do you think?
I think. Well, I'm 100%, mate. It was a search and rescue. I think we've pretty much.
Yeah, I've got it. Sorry,
I think we've pretty much confirmed that.
Join your world, Gil. We're on. You're talking about the search and rescue guy.
But it could be. It was definitely. It was the way they acted, mate. It was definitely somebody government orientated, I would say, or somebody, in that world.
What I'm more intrigued now because, as I say, the first time you spoke about it, you said there's a boat, and I didn't really impress upon you. So, what type of boat was it? So, a great question that Ben22 threw up. What type of boat was it, and how big was this boat? Because we don't see boats below, so close in below the cliffs there. I think whereabouts that was. I think it's called Crab Rocks.
All right, okay.
Yeah, that's Crab Rocks. And incidentally, if it were high tide, I suppose you can get a cobble there, because below Crab Rocks in 1963, I'll just briefly say this, there's 3 men in a fishing boat, should I say, called the Imperialist, which is still in Bridlington Harbour. 1963, I think it was July 1963. And they're all in the crab pots, daytime, and they're looking into the water, and they all ducked instinctively, because they saw a reflection in the water. When they looked up, just above their heads, there's a sphere of light and a creamy white colour in the daylight. And as they looked at it, it just shot off into the distance. It had just gone. When I spoke to 2 of them, the men, I think they might have all passed away now, but I spoke to 2 of them, and one of them were a Flamborough fella, and I said, how big was it? And he went, 30 ball. And I went, what? And he went, football, a 30 ball. And what I found fascinating is when they brought the Imperialists back in, because it were at Flamborough during the 1960s, there were people waiting to speak to them on the beach. And there's no radios, there's no communications there. So that's something being tested and close to RAF Bempton, and they realised that they've been observed. I don't know. It was just a strange one. But yeah, so you could get a boat under Crab Rocks, but it'd be a diesel-engined cobble. If people aren't familiar with it and you think, what's he talking about? A cobble, it's a little wooden fishing vessel that they catch crabs in and lobsters and do a bit of fishing in. And the fishing community in Filey, Bridlington, and Flamborough fish out in these cobbles. So that's a possibility. But it wouldn't have been festooned with all sorts of lights.
Yeah, it would have been, how big, mate, would it have been? It would have been probably, I would imagine, mate, it would have been the same size of, if you see like a small boat where it's got one of those, where it's got like, and it's got a cab on the top. Yeah. Does that make sense? It probably would have been a small to medium sized one of them. That's how big it would have been. But like I say, it was hard to see what it really looked like, because you couldn't make out anything else other than the lights. That's how light it was, how brightly lit up it was.
Yeah. Well, just fascinating. I've got a question here from Al Durham, so let's have a look at this. Whenever someone says they're a police officer or some other official, ask you to contact 999. Always ask for their log number for their incident. They should be able to provide that. A good point, Al.
Yeah, good point. You know what it is, mate? It's one of those things. Like, and I'll spot on when you're in the moment of it. Everything normal goes out the window, and your brain goes into overdrive. Like normally, if that happened to me today, I would do it. But the whole situation puts you on the back foot, and things that you would normally do, you don't normally do. It's the same way when people say, "Why didn't you take a picture?" You say, "Well, you've seen something you've never seen before in your life. The first thing you don't think of is to whip your phone out and take a picture."
Yeah, you make a good point. And Al was asked the question. He's as lateral thinking as you could get, and he's another guy just like Marco spoke about earlier, straight down the line. If he thinks you're wrong, if you're his best friend and he thinks you're wrong, he'll tell you. He's absolutely straight John Bull is Al. So I know that he went up there on his own. Didn't have a profound experience, but something happened that's kind of rattled him a little bit. And I don't know if you'd ever come on and talk about it. It's not going to take more than 15 minutes. I realise that, Al, but it's interesting. and you get a sincerity when you speak with Al. So good point, mate. And let's have a look. I'm just going down these a little bit, people. Oh, we've got another one, Al Durham again. Let's have a look. Could the two men and the woman have been Coast Guard staff involved in S&R task? But would they have been so upfront, Al? Would they have been so abrupt, and would they have followed him back? I don't know. I mean, all questions that we're never going to be able to answer now.
I mean, I suppose there could have been, mate. The whole maybe I'm looking too much into it in terms of everything that I've done in that world, mate. Everybody is identifiable. So Coast Guard have got a uniform, Search and Rescue have a uniform, military have a uniform, so you can identify and know who's who. And they had nothing on them to say they were Coast Guard. They didn't say they were Coast Guard.
No, and the white vehicle so we've got a little red car in the car park, Al, as you know, and a white pickup that's unmarked. I'm assuming it's unmarked.
Yeah, it was unmarked, mate. Yeah, there was nothing on it.
Yeah, fascinating. So Jane Louise says, "Oh my God, this is freaky stuff. You must have been terrified." Yeah,
I was. Yeah,
yeah.
But to be fair, there, I was terrified since I drove up Cliff Lane. It didn't until the next day.
Well, you know, the account that we put on a few. Why am I saying we? That I put on a few days ago. There's a lot of comments where people have said, and I know I touched on it earlier. I've been up there in the night, in the evening, and there's a strange, I've never seen anything, didn't see any lights, didn't see anything, but I got some strange, uneasy feelings whilst up there. Speak to a lot of the fishermen, a lot of the rock anglers, and they'll say the same. And it's not just because they're in the dark, because they'll go all over the place. They'll go down to Tunstall, they'll go past Whitby, they'll go all over the place fishing. Yeah. And they don't come out with these things often. There's a place near Scalby Mills. I don't know if you're familiar with Scalby Mills, Andy. It's just on edge of Scarborough, just before not far from the Forge Valley. And there's a Bridlington fisherman that went to Scalby Mills, and it's interesting. It's very close to one at locations where we've got a witness from Wolflands, and he said he were down there on the beach. He says, and these, when we say cliffs, it's like a dirt muddy cliff to get down to it. A track, not some kind of thing you'd need ropes or anything. He says, I'm there fishing during the night and I got an uneasy feeling. Once again, this strange feelings overwhelming him. And he goes all over. This guy's in his 70s, fished all over the place. I got a real uneasy feeling. He says, and I turned around and put my head torch on, and walking along the bottom of the cliff, say 100 yards away, there's a huge, he says, I want to say it's a dog, but it weren't a dog. He says, it looked like a dog, but its body shape, you get that sort of eye, shoulder, and curve in the back with a cat. He says, and its shoulders, he says, and it's just walking along the cliff. He says, and the path where I'd come down, they call this guy Mally, and I'll not say his surname, although he's done my drawings and everything. And I don't think I've even wrote about it. And he says, the path where I'd come down hours before, he says, and I were uneasy getting down it and nice and steady. It went up the path and just bounded up and it had gone. He says, but I stayed then. I stayed for probably an hour or so longer than what I were going to stay because I was frightened to go up that path.
Yeah.
Because of what I'd seen. He said, because it weren't ordinary. It were like a Great Dane height. And it's there in a cove, just walking along the edge of the cove. He said, but looked like a dog, but moved like a cat.
Fascinating.
It is, isn't it? It really is.
The only thing I forgot to say, Paul, about that Bempton, about what happened to me with those strange people at Bempton. When we come back the next day, when we woke up the next day, my partner was trying to look for, if anything, on the internet that someone had went missing, and the only thing that she could find, it was the 15-year anniversary of Russell going missing to the day.
I remember you saying that now, and that is fascinating in itself, isn't it? It's fascinating and sad, because if people don't know that, there was a young guy went missing, I think it was March the 10th. I'm not sure what year. I think it was 2010.
No, it was March the 1st.
March the 1st, what it?
March the 1st, yeah, because it was the day that I was up there. That's when his anniversary was.
Excellent. Well, thank you. But it was March, weren't it? And
yeah.
And am I right with 2010?
Yeah, 2010, mate. Yeah, it was the 15th-year anniversary when I bumped into those people.
So could that have been why they were up there? and I don't mean for any macabre reasons, but just thinking, I'm thinking, you know, this. Can we get any clues? Can we gain any clues from being up here on the anniversary, even though it's years later? You know, because it must be torture for the people that have lost loved ones, and I don't just mean there. I mean all over the place. You know,
it's just another one of those little synchronicities, mate, that make the whole encounter with the stranger.
Now, let's have a look at this. Jane says, "My thoughts are these people were a different version of the Men in Black." Okay, Jane. Yeah, I guess we'll never know, but you know. I think anybody's, I don't mean it's wrong to say guess, but anybody's thoughts and theories are as good as anyone else's, unless you're going to say that you know what they were. Lisa's just said, Paul, they're not humans. Well, I don't, are we talking about the light beings now, Lisa? Can't we?
You know what, Paul? There's Sparks has asked the question there.
Well, read it because I can't see it.
I'll read out, mate. It says, hello, Andy. Did the officers have Yorkshire accents? Were their facial features weird, right? And
it's clever, isn't it?
It is, mate. And now that you said that, yeah, so their accents, mate, weren't anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they had no accent at all, like monotone. Like they didn't sound like you.
No,
you know what I mean, it was a monotone, no accent. You couldn't tell where they were from anywhere.
That's interesting. So, by unpicking this weird experience that you had with the people, and you know. I would adamant in my mind, not adamant, but I was confident in my mind that you'd seen a boat, or you thought you'd seen a boat.
Yes, so was
I'm
I.
not even sure you'd seen a boat.
No, not now, mate. No.
And then we've got the accents, and Ben 22 brought something up earlier as well. What did he bring up? I can't remember.
He asked me what type of boat was it?
What type of boat? Yes, you know, so that's how we got to the boat. Yeah, apologies. Yeah. So let's have a look here. Fear is an emotion that can be created instantly, unlike love.
I don't know, mate. People always say love at first sight, don't they?
Love at first sight, Ian. You know, but you know, I don't know. But I think you're right, though. You can become fearful instantly, can't you?
Yeah.
You know, can you imagine going to a zoo and facing some of those big cats if they weren't behind a bars or a glass screen, if you suddenly came across something like that? So you're right, Ian, the feeling would be instant, but I suppose equally it's probably harder to fall in love, but I suppose you could see the partner of your dreams and instantly fall in love. I don't know, we might be on wrong channel here, Ian. I don't. Let's have a look. Right, let's have a look. Night Debt Collector, let's have a look at this one. Two possibilities for the people on the cliffs. Maybe special forces doing training from the military base. No, the military base is closed. Debt Collector. It genuinely is closed. It's been closed since 1968/70. Use the word interrogate. The use of the word interrogate, or a group of doggers role-play search and rescue. So there's three possibilities there.
I mean, they definitely weren't special forces. I'd put money on it.
No, absolutely.
I've met with them, worked with them. I know what they would be like, and they definitely weren't anyone special forces wise.
Excellent. Right, we'll not take that any Debt Collector any deeper than what you do. We'd be digging ourselves an hole, won't we? Let's have a look. Paul, I mean, they are not real, brought forward by our ancient peoples, probably for protection. Okay, yep. You know, we had a lady come up onto cliff tops after Maeve. Calvert came on, the lady who does the dowsing, and she brought her friend up, Annie, and this lady. I mean, Maeve's a lovely woman, and we really enjoyed her company as well when she was telling us about the dowsing. But when Annie were a revelation, to be honest with you, because she was talking about things up there that she couldn't have known about, and it weren't just, oh, I'm going to tell you this now, and then there'd be a pause, and then this happened. It was just like a machine gun firing out the words. It was really strange. So we are looking forward to Maeve and Anne coming up again, which we hope they do. Let's have a look again. So Zeno's put a question up here, but it's not in capitals. But Ben, if you want, it can be encouraged. It's about vibration. Have you ever experienced massive joy or immediate depression? Those vibrations make you taggable, coupled in the right area. Okay. And I think he's right. I think I get where he's coming from with that. And we've all done it, haven't we? We've all sort of experienced the highs and lows of emotions. And sometimes during those highs and lows, either we tap into the unexplained or it taps into us. It maybe sees a weakness. It maybe sees an opening, a different kind of thought process, vibration being put out. I get it in a way.
Well, I mean, the phenomenon mate does both at Bempton, doesn't it? So, like when we said about those pockets of fear, like I've experienced and then Mark did. But when you see a light up there, you all get massive joy, don't you? Or you because you caught something on camera and you've got some more proof, so you do get the massive joys up there, and then you do get obviously the massive dips when you're scared.
The lows. I mean, the other night, like Linny said earlier, Mark and himself, they saw this little moon thing, and and that were only Wednesday night. We didn't see it because we're not all like meerkats, kind of looking around at the same spot. But they both commented on it. Mike Disabled Welshman, Mark, Andy, you are a great guest, and he is. Do you know something? This was pure fate because I was toying with the idea of doing this because I've been all over the place today, and then, as I say, I was sat in a doctor's surgery till 6 o'clock, and we're a relative. But I'm just looking at my messages in surgery, and Andy left me a message saying he'd come on and talk about if I ever wanted him to. And I thought, yeah, we'll do that tonight. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been doing this live streams. And I do appreciate support, guys. And especially, let's just do this. Andy, I missed the last bit when you got back to the Airbnb. Did the pickup truck turn up there as well?
Yes, it did, Jen. So as soon as I turned right at the T-junction, it turned right and followed me all the way back to the Airbnb, even to the point where when we got out the car to go into the Airbnb, it was parked in the driveway, watching us get out the car and then go into the Airbnb. And then I assume at some point, once we were in the Airbnb, it drove off.
Did it leave the lights on?
Yeah, the lights were on, mate, yeah. And once the game hit, so lights were on, so you couldn't see inside the vehicle.
Yeah. And Gemma has just put up shadows and sightings. Yep, and this is Andy's YouTube channel, because we're going to close down in a minute. And remember, guys, unless you've got something to do, jump over to the last transmission on YouTube, because there's a little film going out there about Huggett and just some of the strange things around that area of the Wolds. And it's worth watching just for the views. It's just incredible. So thanks, Gemma, and for putting that up for Andy. And please, at some point tonight, tomorrow, whatever, or when you're watching this, jump over to Shadows and Sightings, press the like and subscribe, and let's see Andy's channel grow, because do you want people to get in touch with you and share some accounts?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, that'd be brilliant. And that's what it's all about, because it's difficult if it's just you talking all the time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to close in a minute because I want people to be able to... Right, last thing from Jane. Andy, when the man spoke, was his voice robotic?
I don't think it was robotic. I mean, to be fair, maybe some people would call it robotic, Jane, because it was monotone. There was no accent. Like it didn't sound like Paul or Linny. Do you know what I mean? Or anyone else I spoke to whilst I was down there. So I suppose maybe you could call it robotic, but not in the sense of it didn't sound like metallic or robotic in that sense, you know.
Excellent. And we were planned on doing an hour, guys, and we've just done close to 2 hours. And I'm very thankful for everybody who's contributed tonight. None more than Andy, Gemma, Lee, and I'm not sure if Alison's been in, and that's not because it's because I've not seen name, but if you have, Alison, thank you. But everybody who's contributed, thanks a lot, guys. We'll get back on Sunday. Hopefully we'll have a topic to talk about or someone to share some information with. And do you know something? We were only talking about one subject tonight, and it's just spread, and your contribution to questions has been as good as anybody's. Do you want to come back on in a few months?
Oh, definitely, mate. Yeah, 100%. Whenever you want me back on, just drop me a message, and I'll help you.
And likewise, give us a shout, and we'll do something with your channel, Andy. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate. Yeah.
So I'm going to say good night from myself, and good night, Andy, and everybody in chat.
Yep. Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Saw it twice. So I was like, oh my god.
That was just weird.
I always used to see a light coming up,
Yeah.
like a headlight, but there was nobody there.
Oh, it's just disappeared.